core is too damaged by dark energon to sustain life on Cybertron. In order to repair itself, the core must shut down for millions of years. Carrying the power of the matrix of leadership inside him, Optimus Prime must sadly order the evacuation of the entire planet if the race of Transformers is to survive.
To all Autobots within range of this signal, our planet is dying. We have no choice but to take to the stars. I am ordering the evacuation of all Autobot cities, effective immediately.
What was that?
I told you, to stay and defy me was to die, and no one defies Megatron.
He's insane.
Silverbolt, ready your soldiers. We need that gun offline now.
Got another transport out of control! Pull up! Ah! Look at this! The bodies everywhere! Hold steady. Focus on the ones we can still save.
Silverbolt, do we even have a plan?
The Energon Bridge draws power directly from Cybertron to fuel the gun. We'll follow the beam up to the station and shut it off. That'll give the transports enough time to escape. Keep moving. Head through the beam conduit. Watch it! You're too close to that beam, and you're either fried by radiation or zapped by a plasma flare.
No kidding. I can already feel it searing my circuits.
Hello Autobots and Decepticons, my name is Somungi and I'd like to welcome you guys all back to Transformers War for Cybertron campaign, and it has been a long time. I'm talking months and months, but I'm ready to finish up this campaign, so let's get this started. If you guys don't know what this is all about, during these campaign missions, I pick a couple characters and talk about their Generation 1 history in regards to the Generation 1 cartoon. And no other history on the character is really revealed. I may talk about when we last saw the character at the end, so that may not be related to G1, but I will mention that if that is the case. So first of all, let's talk about who we are playing as. Air Raid. And I will be playing as Air Raid throughout this whole entire mission, so when I talk about Silverbolt and Jetfire, I will still be talking about Air Raid. And Air Raid and Silverbolt kind of go together in the same storyline. They're together a lot, so I may kind of smush those two together. But let's see how this goes. Air Raid is a reckless flyer. He will fly 100 miles an hour right at his enemy, and he will laugh at danger. He loves the adrenaline and has only one goal in life, and that's to have fun. And needless to say, with all this fun that he's having, it gets himself into a lot of danger the whole time. But he makes sure and enjoys himself while he's in that danger, and he loves to stun the Decepticons with his surprise tactics of destroying them. He is part of the Aerialbots, and they form Superion. So I wanted to briefly talk about the Aerialbots. The Aerialbots were a creation of a lot of different people. Hoist, Wheeljack, Ratchet, and Alpha Trion, and even Optimus were all part in the Aerialbots being born. And the Aerialbots consist of Silverbolt, their leader, Air Raid, Fireflight, Skydive, and Slingshot. And if you haven't guessed it by now, they all can fly. And they were each made by broken down Cybertron ships and then made into like earthly jets. And if you're going to make some new bots, you might as well have them combined, right? So they made them combined into the mighty Superion. And once they are combined into Superion, their thought capacity is basically on two things: to destroy Decepticons and protect humans. So this is kind of a conflicting things, because usually humans get in the way of Decepticons, so he's got to kind of make a choice if he's going to protect the humans or if he's going to destroy the Decepticons. So that's a little bit about the Aerialbots and Superion. Definitely check out my sources in the description below if you want to read more or anything like that. And I'm going to go ahead and move on actually to Silverbolt, who I'm not playing as right now. And I think it's better if I can explain these both at the same time, both the aerial bots that are in here, Silverbolt and Air Raid, just because their histories are really, really close together. So Silverbolt, he has the fear of heights. I know, a plane having the fear of heights is pretty crazy. But Optimus put him in charge of the aerial bots because he thought that because he was such a worrywart that this would take his focus off his own fears and it would make him a good leader and worry about his troops instead. And surprisingly, it worked out very well for Silverbolt. It made him an excellent commander. Oh, and one other thing before we proceed on, before I forget to mention it, I haven't played this game for a couple months, so I apologize if the gameplay is not the greatest. But anyways, I wanted to talk about the most important part in the Aerialbots history right away off the bat, because I don't know how much time I'm going to have to be able to talk about these guys, so we're not going to be able to get everything in. But I wanted to talk about the Aerialbots right away. They were basically just a bunch of jerks right off the bat, and Silverbolt was, you know, he was more or less the nicest one, so that also played a role in Optimus naming him the leader. And it was kind of a weird situation. Back in the day, the Aerialbots saw Starscream and his fellow Seekers, and they were like, "Whoa, they're so good at flying, look at them go, wow." And then they were just like jerks to everybody else. And so Starscream and his fellow Seekers kind of convinced the Aerialbots to go with them. Like Air Raid and everybody else was kind of just, I guess, made a fool of from Starscream, except for Silverbolt. He was the only smart one here. He was the only one that was like, "Come on, guys, what are you doing?" But yet he couldn't stop the Aerialbots from flying along and getting caught into this time machine that they had set up, the Decepticons. So Air Raid, Silverbolt, and the rest of the Aerialbots got lured into this time machine, and it wasn't Silverbolt's problem. He was trying to look after his team, but the Aerialbots were too ignorant and too blind to see that the Decepticons were evil. They just were so mesmerized by how good of flyers they were that they got kind of duped into going on this certain pad. And then Megatron sent them back lots of millions of years ago. And this is kind of where it gets interesting here, because it's kind of like, without this happening, would Optimus have been created? I guess you guys can figure that out for yourselves, and I have my own opinion on that as well. But the Aerialbots got sent back, and they met a fellow Autobot, or he wasn't an Autobot at that time, he was just a bot named Orion Pax. It was then that the Aerialbots witnessed Megatron damaging Orion Pax, and then they finally realized how big of jerks the Decepticons were. So Silverbolt and the rest of the Autobots took Orion Pax to Alpha Trion, and then he was then made into Optimus Prime. Later on that episode, which is one of my favorite episodes, they were then transported back because Wheeljack managed to repair the Chronosphere, which took them back to the future, but then it brought them back, and then Silverbolt ordered the Aerialbots to combine into Superion and take down Megatron's giant robot.
The crash exposed some exhaust tubes up ahead. Looks like we found our entrance. It's gonna be pretty choppy in those vents! This must be the coolant room.
To beam the powers the gun runs so hot, this entire area is dedicated to cooling it. If we can disrupt the cooling process, the gun won't be able to fire.
So how do we do that?
Well, I say we start blasting stuff.
Now you're talking, Silverbolt!
So that's like the most important part in their history, and I definitely wanted to share that with you guys, because it's like, without the Aerialbots being so stupid and following Starscream, and then thank goodness for Silverbolt being the one person that is smart in the whole situation, and then helping out and creating Optimus Prime. So Optimus Prime created them, but in turn, the Aerialbots helped create Optimus, which is kind of crazy. So I'm going to jump forward in time a little bit here, but I briefly want to talk about kind of what happened in between or after this all happened in Generation 1. There was a lot of different missions, some involving like the Statue of Liberty, and then some other rescue missions as well. And it was mostly the Aerialbots fighting other Decepticons that could also combine, like the Stunticons and the Combaticons, because they also had the ability to form Superion, so they would get into duels with a lot of those people. But they would also definitely battle some cons like Vortex and some other flyers as well. So there was a lot of rescue missions with them. But I want to move forth a little bit further down the timeline. So after the death of Megatron and the retaking of Cybertron, the Aerialbots, they became part of this Autobot fleet when Ultra Magnus, Cup, and Spike were kidnapped to Quintessa, which is actually the home planet of the Quintessons. So hold that thought. I want to make sure you guys hear this conversation that is coming up next.
I'm thrilled when Optimus named you leader of the squad instead of me.
Really, Air Raid? You picked now to talk about this?
No, hear me out. What I mean to say is, you don't entirely suck at the job. You know, for a guy who's afraid of heights and all.
Very funny, Air Raid.
It's a compliment.
All right, guys, the coolant pump is just ahead. Let's take it down.
So they were on a rescue mission here, and Air Raid and Skydive made strafing runs that took out the Quintessons' defensive proton cannons, and they managed to pull off the rescue, but the Quintessons weren't going to let them get away scot-free, so they actually used a blast that destroyed their own planet, and the Aerialbot ship got sent through the air, hurtling them through space. And this is kind of the funny part about this, is Silverbolt, he was a much more confident leader at that time, and he was also a lot bigger. He was so large that he was actually the Autobot ship at that point. So he was very, very large. And then he ended up getting stuck on Goo 8739b, which is a planet that is entirely made of a sticky substance, kind of like gum. So it's kind of like when you get your shoe stuck on a gum on the pavement, and you pull it up and there's that big sticky thing, although you probably would be able to get free of that, but they were stuck there. So Silverbolt, he couldn't get away. He couldn't even get away with his blast off that jet mode, but they were eventually rescued by Wreck-Gar and the Junkions. And I always liked Wreck-Gar. He was pretty cool. I like him in the movie a lot. I think he's pretty sweet, and he dares to be stupid, so I love it. So after this happens, the Aerialbots get into some more battles with the Quintessons and like Cyclonus and his troops, and then Air Raid and Silverbolt kind of have this confrontation where Air Raid's not too happy with Silverbolt. He wants to go pursue them, but then Silverbolt reminds everybody this is why he is the leader of the Aerialbots, because it's what Prime would have wanted them to do and not go take the chance. But Air Raid, he's kind of like a hothead. He wants to go for the kill all the time, and he has that sense of adventure. But everything seems to be okay with them in the end, but they did have that little kind of confrontation between the two. So a little bit farther down the road, I thought this was kind of funny. Silverbolt and the rest of the Aerialbots were sitting there watching home movies on Teletran 2, and when things all of a sudden got a little bit more serious, when they found out Trypticon was never destroyed in his last battle against Metroplex. So they managed to track down Trypticon, and they found themselves a bit outnumbered, so they did the smart thing and went and got reinforcements and were able to defeat the Decepticons and clear them from the area. So a little bit farther down, they end up battling Trypticon again on Earth, and Air Raid, he starts flying a little bit too close, and he actually gets his tail fin set on fire from Trypticon. But because of this happening, Trypticon was then out of fire, and Silverbolt was able to fly down his throat, but wasn't able to really do any damage to him. And Air Raid was sitting down in like a pool of water, or like in a pond, getting himself, I guess, not on fire any longer. And Silverbolt did not like what happened to Air Raid. He actually congratulated Air Raid on getting himself strategically set on fire, and those two went at it again a little bit, but it seemed to be that they were all okay afterwards again, as they kind of have this like brotherly love going on.
Focus, Air Raid. Optimus is counting on us. No matter what, we will see this through.
So now I'm going to move forth into kind of their last appearances. And it was when the Decepticons, they invaded Cybertron. They were searching for this plasma energy chamber, and the Aerialbots were trying to stop them. Unfortunately, they got overwhelmed, and Air Raid was shot down by 6 Changers siege tank mode.
Ah, what the?
Jetfire, after all this time, you've come home.
Jetfire? How does he know you?
Long story. Megatron, enough lives have been lost. You've got to stop this madness.
You should have joined my Decepticons when you had the chance, Jetfire.
I wear the Autobot insignia with pride, Megatron.
There is no pride to be had in humiliation and death.
Decepticons, attack!
You'll have to do better than that.
So Air Raid was then defeated, and then the Combaticons took his power pack to use for fuel for the giant rocket engine they were constructing for Galvatron. And the same thing apparently happened to Silverbolt. Now I don't remember this, or I don't even know if I've seen it actually, but then he was somehow able to survive and was then later defeated by Blastoff 2 episodes later, and then his power pack was also taken. So the last couple of things I told you guys about both Air Raid and Silverbolt, I personally do not remember. I got it from all the sources, which are pretty darn reliable, and they do a good job. Make sure and check out the sources in the description below if you guys want to learn more. And you can also go back and watch Transformers Generation 1 on YouTube. There's episodes all over the place. And I've actually wanted to go back and watch seasons 3 and 4, maybe even 2, because I don't remember 3 and 4 too well. I was a lot younger when I watched those, but I definitely have 1 on DVD, which is pretty awesome. And I'm getting a little sidetracked here, but Silverbolt, Air Raid, and the rest of the Aerialbots, very good at rescuing people, and they played a very crucial role in Transformers history. So that pretty much wraps up Air Raid, Silverbolt, and the Aerialbots. I hope you guys enjoyed learning about them. And I'm not going to move on to Jetfire this video, so next episode we will talk about Jetfire. And there's a couple of minutes left in this, so I wanted to just apologize for you guys for taking forever to get this video out to you guys. I know it's been months and months and months, but these videos do require lots of research and lots of work and lots of pictures to be placed in there. So I hope you guys appreciate the effort that is put into these as well. And Megatron, he is so cranky. I mean, come on, come on. I guess if you did work for him, you wouldn't really have a choice. It'd be like, either you're going to get killed in your home, or you can go out there and do battle against the Autobots and maybe be able to rest easy at night with your Decepticon family. But even then, I don't know. And Air Raid, he's a beast. I'm wondering if we will see him in anything new Transformers related, Transformers Prime, or anything to come. And same with Silverbolt, very cool, very, very awesome Autobots, or Aerialbots as I like to call them as well, and rightfully so. They are definitely high flyers with attitudes. So here we are, we're draining the coolant, and dinner is served, Air Raid. That's an Energon dinner for you, brah.
Coolant levels lowering.
In your face, Megatron!
Regulator from the station's nerve center. That would definitely finish it off.
Well then, lead the way.
Alright, so here we are, going down the tunnel. Jetfire, very smart.
Red alert. Structural integrity at 95%. Replace coolant immediately.
That's good, right? This is good.
Jetfire, you were dead on. The station's coming apart at the seams. Not fast enough, it isn't. When we get to the nerve center, we can really cause some damage. Red alert.
What?
Structural integrity at 90%. No such thing. Jump down through the coolant. Alert. Energon beam integrity is compromised.
And I just love how he's like, that's good, right? 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 He's like, reinsurance needed.
Find the Autobots immediately! The Autobots have overloaded the entire cooling system! Megatron will vaporize us if Tripticon goes offline! Move!
Yes, sir! We're almost there, guys. The nerve center is just up ahead.
And this is actually one of my more favorite parts in this campaign. I love the Tripticon battle you guys will see next time with Jetfire. And I definitely like flying in this game. The Scientist is so smooth with those barrel rolls going back and forth. Makes for some great fun, and you really get that experience as a high flyer, which is pretty amazing. So here we are. We're going to fight this big guy. He's got nothing. The bigger they are, the harder they fall.
Intruders! Decepticon! Melt them down!
And the only thing that hurts you quite a bit are the snipers in this part. So we're going to try to clean those up and avoid those people. And this guy would be using a frag launcher. Go figure, right?
Red alert. Structural integrity.
Bring in the whirlwind. Bring in the pain. Air Raid with the whirlwind. Who said he wasn't a bruiser? Definitely no fear right there. And so next episode, I will be playing as Air Raid as well, but we will be talking about Jetfire and possibly Tripticon. So I will meet you guys all next time. in Transformers War for Cybertron campaign. Don't forget to leave a comment, leave a rating, leave a thumbs up, and subscribe for more Transformers. Have a great day, everyone.